Captain Lee Hyun stared out the viewport of the human transport ship as Nexus Prime came into view. The massive space station stretched across the darkness like a metal city floating among the stars. Lights blinked along its surface in patterns. He did not understand. This was his first time seeing alien architecture, and it made him feel very small. "Sir, we are getting clearance to dock," said Lieutenant Park Nari from the pilot's seat. Her voice stayed calm, but Lee Hyun could hear the tension underneath. They were all nervous. This meeting would decide humanity's place in the galaxy. Engineer Kim Jun looked up from his tablet where he had been studying the station's technical details. "The power readings on this thing are incredible. They could probably destroy our entire solar system with just the weapons on this one station." Lee Hyun nodded slowly. The aliens had made that point very clear when they first contacted Earth 6 months ago. Humanity was new to space travel. The other species had been building empires among the stars for thousands of years. Earth's most advanced warships were toys compared to what waited out here. The docking process took 30 minutes. Alien machines guided their ship into a bay that could have held 50 vessels their size. When the airlocks connected, Lee Hyun straightened his uniform and checked his sidearm one more time. The weapon felt useless, but regulations required it. "Remember," he told his team, "we represent all of humanity today. Whatever they ask us to do, we show them that humans can handle it." The airlock opened with a soft hiss. Beyond it waited, a corridor that curved upward until it disappeared from sight. The walls glowed with soft blue light. The air smelled strange, like metal and something sweet that Lee Hyun could not identify. 3 figures waited for them in the corridor. They were tall, maybe 8 feet, with gray skin that looked like stone. Their eyes were large and black, and they wore robes that seemed to shimmer and change color as they moved. These were the Velkhori, the species that ruled most of this part of the galaxy. The center figure stepped forward. When it spoke, the words came from a device on its chest that translated the alien sounds into human language. "I am Ambassador Thex, Valdrin of the Velkhori Empire. You are the humans, yes? You are smaller than our reports suggested." Lee Hyun felt his jaw tighten, but he kept his voice steady. "I am Captain Lee Hyun of the Earth Defense Force. This is Lieutenant Park Nari and Engineer Kim Jun. We are honored to be here." Thex Valdrin made a sound that the translator did not convert. The other 2 aliens seemed to find it amusing. Yes, honored. That is the correct word. Few species receive an invitation to prove themselves before the Galactic Council. You should be very grateful. They walked through corridors that made Lee Hyun dizzy. The station was so large that they took moving walkways and small transport pods just to reach their destination. Along the way, they passed members of other alien species. Some looked almost human, but with different colored skin or extra arms. Others were so strange that Lee Hyun had trouble understanding what he was seeing. All of them stopped to stare at the humans. Lee Hyun heard whispers and what sounded like laughter. The translator picked up fragments. "Primitives. New meat. This will be quick." Their destination was a vast amphitheater that could hold thousands of beings. Floating platforms provided seating for different types of alien bodies. In the center sat a raised area where 12 figures waited around a circular table. These were the leaders of the Galactic Council. Thex Valdrin led them to a platform near the center table. "You will stand here while we explain the trials. Do not speak unless asked a direct question. Do not move unless instructed. These rules have been followed for over 3,000 years. The center of the amphitheater lit up with holographic displays. Images of space battles, alien warriors, and advanced weapons filled the air above their heads. A voice spoke in what must have been the official galactic language, then the translator converted it to human speech. For millennia, the Velkhori trials have determined the place of new species in our galactic community. Combat reveals truth that diplomacy cannot. A species that cannot fight cannot be trusted to stand beside us against the dangers that threaten civilized worlds. Li Hyun watched the holographic battles. The Valkyrie warriors moved with perfect coordination. Their weapons cut through enemy forces like knives through paper. Their energy shields turned away attacks that should have been devastating. These aliens had turned war into an art form. Every species must face the trials, Thex Valdrin explained, his voice carrying across the amphitheater. The strong earn respect and partnership. The weak serve in whatever capacity they can manage. This system has brought peace and order to over 200 worlds. Park Nari leaned close to Li Hyun and whispered, "Peace through domination, more like." The ambassador's large black eyes turned toward her. Did the females speak? Females among. Humans have opinions about military matters. Li Hyun felt heat rise in his chest. But Park Nari answered before he could speak. Among humans, both males and females serve in our military forces. We judge by ability, not gender. Several aliens in the audience made sounds that suggested surprise or amusement. Thex Valdrin tilted his head in a way that seemed condescending. How primitive, but interesting. Perhaps this explains why you have achieved so little in your short existence as a spacefaring species. Kim Jun stepped forward slightly. With respect, Ambassador, humans have gone from first flight to interstellar travel in less than a century. Most species take 5 times that long. Speed means nothing without wisdom, Thex Valdrin replied. You built ships before you understood the dangers that wait among the stars. This is why the trials exist, to see if you can learn before those dangers destroy you. The holographic display changed to show the arena where the trials would take place. It was huge, with multiple levels connected by bridges and platforms. Automated weapons and defense systems were built into the walls and floor. Energy barriers could appear and disappear to change the battlefield in seconds. You will face a team of our finest warriors, Thex Valdrin announced. They have centuries of experience and the best equipment our empire can provide. You will receive standard trial weapons and basic armor. The contest ends when one side surrenders or cannot continue fighting. Li Hyun studied the arena layout. The challenges looked impossible. The Valkyrie champions would have every advantage. This was not meant to be a fair test. This was meant to be a demonstration of human weakness. When do we begin? He asked. Tomorrow, when all the council representatives have arrived. 12 species will witness your trial. Word of the results will spread throughout the galaxy. Choose your team carefully, human. The reputation of your entire species depends on what happens in that arena. As they were led to their quarters, Li Hyun felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. Billions of humans back on Earth were counting on them. But looking at the technology around him, at the casual arrogance of the Valkyrie, he wondered if they were walking into a trap that would doom humanity to permanent, second-class status among the stars. The trials would begin in less than 24 hours. Whatever happened next would change everything. Kex Mordain lounged in the Valkyrie warrior quarters, his massive frame draped across a floating chair designed for his species. His dark gray skin bore the ritual scars of a champion, and his black eyes showed the confidence of someone who had never lost a battle. Around him, his 3 teammates shared the same relaxed attitude. Tell me again why we must waste time with these humans, said Vex Corain, the team's weapons specialist. She was cleaning her plasma rifle with slow, methodical movements. The reports say they barely have energy weapons. Their ships use chemical propulsion. They are children playing with toys. Kex Mordain stretched his long arms above his head. Because tradition demands it. Every species must face the trials, even if the outcome is obvious. Zal Thakrin, their tactical coordinator, was studying video feeds of human military forces on Earth. The images showed human soldiers in primitive gear carrying weapons that fired metal projectiles instead of energy beams. Look at this, Zal Thakrin said, pointing at the screen. They fight wars on the surface of their planet. Ground. Combat. Can you imagine anything more backwards? They hide behind rocks and dirt instead of using proper energy shields. The fourth team member, Rex Valdane, was the youngest but no less skilled. He had won recognition in the trials against 3 other species in the past year. The betting. Pools are already active. No one is wagering on the humans. The longest estimate for their surrender is 4 minutes. Kex Mordain laughed, a sound like grinding stone. 4 minutes seems generous. Once they see our equipment in action, they will realize the futility of resistance. Most species surrender after the first demonstration of our capabilities. Meanwhile, in the human quarters 3 levels below, the atmosphere was very different. Li Hyun sat at a small table covered with technical specifications and arena schematics. Park Nari paced back and forth, studying every detail of the combat zone. Kim Jun had taken apart one of their provided weapons and spread the components across his workbench. This equipment is deliberately outdated, Kim Jun announced, holding up a power cell that looked like it had seen decades of use. These energy rifles are at least 50 years behind current Velkori military standard. The armor plating is thin enough that I can dent it with my thumb. Park Nari stopped pacing and looked at the weapon parts. Can you improve them? Kim Jun nodded slowly. The aliens think human technology is primitive, but they do not understand our approach to engineering. We build things to be repaired and modified in the field. Their equipment is elegant but fragile. I can make our gear work better than they expect. Li Hyun looked up from the arena blueprints. What about the environment controls? Can we use those to our advantage? Interesting question, Kim Jun said, moving to his tablet. The arena has variable gravity, atmospheric controls, and movable barriers, all designed to test adaptability. But the control systems are centralized and not as secure as they think. A soft chime indicated someone at their door. Li Hyun opened it to find a small, furry alien carrying cleaning supplies. The creature looked nervous and kept glancing around as if afraid of being seen. I am Bix, the alien said in broken but understandable human language. I clean your rooms, but I also bring information. Li Hyun looked at his teammates, then stepped aside to let the creature enter. What kind of information? Bix set down the cleaning supplies and moved closer, lowering his voice. My people are the Frex. We maintain the station. We clean, repair, cook food. The other species, they do not notice us, but we see everything. Park Nari knelt down to be at the alien's eye level. What do you see? The trials are not fair, Bix whispered. The Velkori choose the arena conditions. They study each species for months before the trials. They know your weapons, your tactics, your weaknesses, but you know nothing about them. Kim Jun looked interested. Tell us about their equipment. Bix glanced toward the door again. Their plasma weapons need time to charge between shots. Very powerful, but slow. Their shields protect against energy attacks, but not against physical impact. And they train in perfect conditions. They have never fought when things go wrong. Li Hyun felt a spark of hope. What do you mean? When things go wrong? The arena systems sometimes malfunction, Bix explained. Gravity generators fail. Barriers appear in wrong places. Automated defenses target everyone. When this happens, the Velkori panic. They do not know how to adapt. Their tactics only work when everything goes according to plan. Park Nari exchanged glances with her teammates. How often do these malfunctions happen? Bix made a sound that might have been a laugh. Not often. But the Frex maintain those systems. Sometimes we make small mistakes during maintenance. Small mistakes that might cause larger problems during important events. The implications were clear. The Frex were offering to sabotage the arena in favor of the humans. Li Hyun felt uncomfortable with the idea of cheating, but he also understood what was at stake. Why would you help us? He asked. Bix's expression grew sad. My people were once proud. We had ships, colonies, technology. Then we faced the Valkyrie, trials. We lost. Now we serve. We clean their messes and repair their mistakes. If the humans win, maybe other species will see that the Valkyrie are not invincible. After Bix left, the three humans sat in silence for several minutes. Finally, Park Nari spoke. We cannot count on the arena malfunctioning. We need to prepare for a straight fight against superior opponents. Lee Hyun nodded. What advantages do we have? Kim Jun looked up from the weapon components. Flexibility. Human military doctrine emphasizes improvisation and adaptation. We train for situations where nothing goes according to plan. The Valkyrie seem to rely on overwhelming force and perfect execution. Their weapons are more powerful, Park Nari added, but they are specialized. Our equipment is simpler but more versatile. And from what Bix told us, they have never faced opponents who use unpredictable tactics. Lee Hyun studied the arena schematics again. We need to turn their strengths into weaknesses, make them react instead of acting, force them into situations where their perfect training does not apply. The next few hours were spent in intense preparation. Kim Jun worked to modify their equipment, improving power output and creating backup systems. Park Nari developed tactical scenarios based on human asymmetric warfare principles. Lee Hyun studied everything they knew about Valkyrie psychology and behavior. As the sleep cycle approached, Kim Jun made a discovery that changed everything. The arena control systems are connected to the station's main power grid, he announced. If someone with engineering knowledge could access the maintenance panels during the fight, they could potentially override safety protocols. Park Nari looked up from her tactical notes. Is that ethical? Lee Hyun considered the question. The Valkyrie have rigged this trial from the beginning. They study us for months while keeping us ignorant. They give us inferior equipment. They choose the battlefield. If we level the playing field a little, that seems fair. Outside their quarters, representatives from 12 alien species were arriving to witness the trials. Most came expecting to see humanity quickly defeated and reduced to servant status like the Freks. The betting pools had grown larger, with odds heavily favoring a Valkyrie victory in under 5 minutes. But in the warrior quarters, Kex Mordain and his team continued their leisure activities, confident that tomorrow would bring another easy victory to add to their record. They had no idea that the humans they planned to defeat were preparing to fight a very different kind of battle than anything the galaxy had seen before. The trials would begin in 12 hours and everything would change. The amphitheater buzzed with excitement as thousands of alien beings filled the floating platforms. Representatives from 12 species had gathered to witness what most believed would be a quick demonstration of human weakness. The betting pools had closed with overwhelming odds favoring the Valkyrie champions. Lee Hyun stood with his team at the arena entrance, checking their modified equipment one final time. The energy rifles felt different in their hands now, thanks to Kim Jun's improvements. The power cells ran hotter and the targeting systems responded faster. Still, they looked primitive compared to the gleaming weapons carried by their opponents. Across the arena, Kex Mordain and his team made their entrance to thunderous applause from the Valkyrie delegation. Their plasma rifles hummed with barely, contained energy, and their personal shields created shimmering barriers around their bodies. They moved with the confidence of warriors who had never known defeat. Ambassador Thex Valdrin rose from his position at the council table, his voice carrying across the amphitheater through hidden speakers. Today we witness the trials of the human species. Let these proceedings demonstrate the natural order that has brought peace to our galaxy for millennia. Warriors, take your positions. The arena floor was a complex maze of metal platforms connected by bridges and ramps. Multiple levels provided cover and strategic positions. Energy barriers could appear instantly to block movement or create new paths. Automated defense turrets waited in standby mode, ready to activate and test both teams equally. Lee Hyun led his team to the starting platform on the left side of the arena. Park Nari immediately began studying sightlines and cover positions. Kim Jun checked the modified control device he had hidden in his equipment pack, the one connected to the arena's maintenance systems. On the opposite platform, Kex Mordain raised his plasma rifle above his head in a gesture of dominance. The crowd cheered again, especially the Velkori delegates, who were already celebrating their expected victory. "Humans," Kex Mordain called out, his voice amplified by the arena's sound system. "You have the honor of facing the finest warriors in the galaxy. When you surrender, do so with dignity. Your species will be judged by how you accept defeat." Li Hyun did not respond to the taunt. Instead, he gave Park Nari a small nod. She understood and began moving toward a maintenance panel that Kim Jun had identified the night before. The countdown began. 10 seconds until the trial started. The alien audience grew quiet, waiting to see how quickly the humans would realize their hopeless situation. 5 seconds. Kim Jun's hand moved to the control. "Device in his pack. 3 seconds. Park Nari reached the maintenance panel and began working. The starting signal sounded across the arena. For exactly 4 seconds, everything proceeded as the Velkori expected. Kex Mordain's team spread out in perfect formation, their plasma rifles, charging with deadly purpose. The automated defense systems activated on schedule, creating a controlled obstacle course designed to test combat skills. Then everything went wrong. The arena's gravity generators flickered and surged. What should have been steady downward pull became chaotic, shifting direction every few seconds. The energy barriers that were supposed to appear in predetermined patterns began materializing randomly, cutting off planned routes and creating new dangers. Most critically, the automated defense turrets lost their target identification systems. Instead of firing controlled bursts at predetermined safe zones, they began shooting at anything that moved, including the Velkori champions. Kex Mordain found himself diving for cover as a defense turret tracked his position and fired a burst of energy bolts where he had been standing. His perfect formation scattered as his teammates scrambled to avoid the malfunctioning systems they had helped design. "What is happening?" Vex Corrine shouted over the sound of weapons fire and grinding machinery. Her plasma rifle was designed for precise, long-range combat, but the shifting gravity made accurate shooting nearly impossible. Zal Thekran tried to activate his tactical display, but the arena's sensor network was feeding him contradictory information. The systems are malfunctioning. All of them. This was not supposed to happen. In the audience, the alien representatives sat in stunned silence. Several species that had faced these trials remembered them as controlled, predictable demonstrations of Velkori superiority. This chaos was something entirely new. But while the Velkori team struggled to adapt to the unexpected conditions, the humans moved with surprising confidence. Li Hyun led his team through the maze of malfunctioning barriers and shifting gravity, as if he had trained for exactly this situation. Park Nari proved that her tactical skills extended far beyond normal combat. She used the unpredictable gravity, shifts to change direction in midair, reaching positions that should have been impossible. When a defense turret targeted her, she did not run for cover like the Velkori. Instead, she used a piece of broken arena equipment to redirect the turret's fire toward a structural weak point, causing part of the upper platform to collapse. Kim Jun revealed capabilities that went far beyond simple engineering. As the arena's systems failed around them, he began rebuilding and repurposing the wreckage in real time. A damaged energy barrier became a makeshift shield. A broken gravity generator was turned into a directional weapon that sent debris flying toward the Velkori positions. The Velkori champions, for all their advanced training and superior equipment, found themselves completely out of their element. Their plasma rifles required stable platforms for accurate firing, but the arena floor kept shifting. Their energy shields were designed to deflect organized attacks, not the random projectiles and environmental hazards that now filled the combat zone. Rex Valdane, the youngest of the Velcori team, made a discovery that horrified him. The defense. Turrets are targeting us as enemies. They think we are intruders. Kex Mordane's confidence began to crack as he realized the scope of the disaster. The arena was no longer a controlled testing ground. It had become a genuine survival situation, the kind of chaotic battle that Velcori doctrine had never prepared them for. A massive explosion rocked the upper levels as multiple systems failed simultaneously. Debris rained down on both teams, but only the humans seemed able to use the chaos to their advantage. They moved through the destruction like it was their natural environment, while the Velcori stumbled and hesitated at every turn. The audience watched in disbelief as the species they had expected to dominate within minutes found themselves desperately seeking shelter from their own arena. The natural order of galactic civilization was collapsing in real time, and everyone could see it happening. The trial had become something no one expected, a real fight, where victory would go to whoever could adapt fastest to impossible circumstances. The arena had become a nightmare of twisted metal, sparking electronics, and unpredictable dangers. What began as a formal demonstration of Velcori superiority had turned into a desperate fight for survival. And in this new reality, the humans were not the helpless primitives everyone expected them to be. Li Hyun crouched behind a section of collapsed platform, watching the Velcori team struggle with conditions they had never trained for. Their advanced plasma rifles were powerful, but required precise targeting and stable firing positions. The constantly shifting gravity and flying debris made both impossible. "Nari, can you reach that control junction?" he called out, using hand signals along with his words. The Velcori had translation devices, but they could not interpret human military gestures. Park Nari nodded and began moving through the chaos with fluid grace. Where the Velcori stumbled and hesitated, she flowed around obstacles like water. Her movements were not elegant in the alien sense, but they were efficient and adaptable. Kim Jun had found his element in the mechanical chaos surrounding them. While the Velcori stared in confusion at their malfunctioning equipment, he was already rebuilding and improving whatever he could reach. A damaged energy conduit became a makeshift weapon that fired bursts of electrical energy. Broken gravity generators were rewired to create localized force fields. "This is impossible!" Vex Karain shouted as her plasma rifle failed to fire for the third time. The weapon's delicate systems could not handle the electromagnetic interference from all the damaged arena equipment. "Our weapons are not designed for these conditions." Zal Thekran tried to contact the arena controllers, but the communication systems were as unreliable as everything else. "The trial must be stopped. The safety protocols have completely failed." But Kex Mordain, despite his growing fear, recognized the truth that his teammates were refusing to face. "Look at the humans," he said, pointing across the arena. "They are not calling for the trial to stop. They are fighting." And they were fighting in ways that none of the watching aliens had ever seen before. When Li Hyun's energy rifle ran out of power, he did not panic or call for help. Instead, he picked up a piece of twisted metal and used it as both shield and weapon. When Park Nari found herself cut off by a collapsed bridge, she used the rubble itself to build a new path. Most shocking of all was Kim Jun's innovation under pressure. He had taken apart one of the arena's automated defense turrets and was rebuilding it as a portable weapon. His modifications were crude and ugly compared to Velcori engineering, but they worked in ways that elegant alien technology could not. "How are they doing this?" Rex Valdane asked, his voice full of confusion and growing respect. "Their equipment is inferior. Their technology is primitive. But they are winning." The answer came in the form of a massive structural collapse that brought down an entire section of the upper arena. The Velcori team scattered in panic, their careful formation completely abandoned. But the humans moved together with purpose, using the destruction as cover to advance toward their opponents. It was then that the unthinkable happened. A series of explosions damaged the arena's containment systems, and toxic gases began leaking from the lower levels. The automated safety systems that should have evacuated everyone had failed along with everything else. The arena was becoming genuinely lethal. Vex Corain, the Velkori weapons specialist, found herself trapped in a section filling with poisonous fumes. Her advanced armor could filter the air for a while, but not indefinitely. She tried to reach her teammates, but falling debris blocked her path. Li Hyun saw her situation and made a decision that shocked everyone watching. Instead of leaving his enemy to die, he signaled his team to help. "Kim, can you clear that passage? Nari, cover us." "Sir," Park Nari said carefully, "she is the enemy." "She is a person in danger," Li Hyun replied. "We help people in danger." The human team moved to rescue their Velkori opponent, navigating the toxic zone with improvised breathing apparatus that Kim Jun created from arena debris. They reached Vex Corain just as her armor's filters began to fail. "Why?" she asked in confusion as Li Hyun helped her to safety. "Why do you help me?" "Because it is the right thing to do," Li Hyun answered simply. But their rescue mission had an unexpected consequence. The other Velkori champions, seeing their teammates saved by human intervention, began to realize how completely the situation had changed. They were no longer the dominant force in this arena. They were the ones who needed help to survive. When another section of the arena began to collapse, Kex Mordain found himself making a choice he never thought possible. Instead of trying to maintain his position and dignity, he ran toward the humans, seeking their protection from the chaos that his own people had created. "Help us!" he called out, his voice carrying a humility that no Velkori had shown in centuries. "We do not know how to fight in these conditions." Zal Thekrin and Rex Valdane followed their leader, abandoning their perfect formation to cluster behind the human team. The aliens who had entered the arena as proud warriors were now refugees seeking shelter from their own technology gone wrong. Li Hyun looked at his teammates and saw understanding in their eyes. This was no longer about winning or losing the trial. This had become about survival, and the humans were the only ones who seemed capable of ensuring everyone made it out alive. "Stay close," he told the Velkori. "Follow our lead and do exactly what we tell you. Your advanced training will get you killed in here." Park Nari established a defensive perimeter with the Velkori champions positioned in the center, protected by human tactical knowledge. Kim Jun began working on a way to stabilize the arena's most dangerous systems. The role reversal was complete and undeniable. In the amphitheater above, the alien representatives watched in stunned silence as their understanding of galactic civilization crumbled before their eyes. The species they had dismissed as primitive was protecting the warriors they had considered invincible. The Frex maintenance worker Bix, watching from a service corridor, allowed himself a small smile. His people's subtle sabotage had worked better than he had dared hope. But even he had not expected the humans to respond to chaos by protecting their enemies. The trial continued, but it was no longer a test of human worthiness. It had become a demonstration that the galaxy's assumptions about strength, superiority, and survival were about to change forever. With the Velkori champions huddled behind them for protection, the human team took complete control of the survival situation. The arena had become a twisted maze of sparking electronics, toxic gases, and unstable structures. But Li Hyun moved through it like a seasoned commander leading troops through familiar territory. "Kex, take your team to that junction and hold position," Li Hyun ordered, pointing to a relatively stable platform 20 meters away. "Do not move until I give the signal." The fact that a human was giving orders to Velkori champions would have been unthinkable an hour ago. Now Kex Mordain followed the instructions without question, his survival instincts overriding centuries of ingrained superiority. Park Nari had evolved from a simple security officer into a tactical genius. She used the chaos of the arena like a weapon. turning every malfunction and collapse into an advantage. When a section of wall began to fall, she did not run from it. Instead, she guided its collapse to block a path that leaked poisonous gas, solving two problems at once. "Vex, your plasma rifle," she called out. "Fire at that support beam, but aim 2 degrees to the left of the stress fracture." Vex Karain hesitated. "That will cause a cascade failure in the entire upper structure." "Exactly," Park Nari replied. "We need the debris to block those automated guns that keep targeting us." The Valkyrie weapons specialist followed the humans' instructions, and the resulting collapse created perfect cover exactly where Park Nari had predicted. The other aliens watching from the amphitheater murmured in amazement. The human was using controlled destruction as a tactical tool in ways their advanced civilizations had never considered. Kim Jun proved that his engineering skills went far beyond simple mechanical knowledge. He was rebuilding the arena around them, turning their death trap into a fortress. Damaged power conduits became defensive barriers. Broken gravity generators were rewired to create escape routes. Failed life support systems were converted into weapons that could clear toxic gases or disable remaining automated threats. "How did you learn to do this?" Rex Valdane asked, watching in fascination as Kim Jun assembled a working communication device from the wreckage of 3 different systems. "Human history," Kim Jun replied, not looking up from his work. "My people have fought wars for thousands of years. We learned to make weapons from anything, build shelter from debris, survive when all the proper equipment failed." Zal Thekran, the Valkyrie tactical coordinator, found this concept difficult to understand. "But you must have had proper military academies, formal training programs, standardized equipment." Park Nari laughed, but not unkindly. "We did. But we also learned that battles never go according to plan. So we trained for when everything went wrong." This was the fundamental difference that none of the advanced galactic species had recognized. Their military doctrines were built on the assumption that superior technology would create predictable outcomes. They trained for perfect execution of complex strategies using reliable equipment. Humans had learned to expect nothing to work as planned. "The communication device is ready," Kim Jun announced. "I can contact the arena controllers and request emergency evacuation." Lee Hyun considered this option, but Park Nari spoke first. "Sir, if we call for evacuation now, the trial ends in failure. Technically, we would have lost." Kex Mordain looked up from his position behind their makeshift barricade. "You would rather die than lose a trial?" "We would rather find a third option," Lee Hyun replied. "Kim, can you stabilize the arena enough for us to complete the original objective?" Kim Jun studied the chaos around them with the eye of someone who saw opportunity where others saw only destruction. The trial was supposed to end when one side surrendered or could not continue fighting. "But what if we changed the rules?" "Explain," Park Nari said. "The arena's central control system is still partially functional. If I can reach it and implement a full restart, we can restore basic safety protocols without ending the trial. But someone would have to hold this position and protect the Valkyrie while I work." It was a plan that revealed everything about human nature that the aliens had failed to understand. Instead of accepting defeat or calling for rescue, they were choosing to fix the problem while protecting their former enemies. Vex Karain stared at Lee Hyun with something approaching awe. "You are going to risk your lives to save ours and complete a trial that was designed to humiliate you." "The trial was designed to test us," Lee Hyun corrected. "It is testing all of us now. The question is whether we can work together to survive it. The plan required precise coordination. Park Nari would lead a fighting withdrawal, drawing the attention of the remaining automated defenses while protecting the Valkyrie team. Lee Hyun would secure the central platform and hold it against any remaining threats. Kim Jun would attempt the most dangerous part, reaching the control center and repairing systems that were actively trying to kill anyone who approached them. As they began to move, Zal Thekran made an observation that would be remembered in galactic military academies for generations to come. "Your tactics make no sense according to established doctrine," he told Park Nari as she led them through a passage that should have been impassable. "You use destruction as construction, chaos as order, weakness as strength." Park Nari paused to help Rex Valden over a pile of debris, then replied, "That is because your doctrine assumes you control the battlefield. We assume the battlefield controls us, so we learn to work with it instead of against it." Kim Jun reached the control center and began the delicate work of repairing systems while they were still active and dangerous. Sparks flew around him as he rerouted power and rebuilt circuits. Several times, electrical feedback nearly killed him, but he continued working with the calm focus of someone who had trained for exactly this kind of impossible situation. "Almost finished," he called out over the sound of grinding machinery and weapons fire. 60 more seconds. Those 60 seconds stretched like hours as Park Nari held their position against automated defenses that seemed determined to prevent any repair attempts. She used tactics that confused and frustrated the targeting systems, making herself unpredictable in ways that artificial intelligence could not calculate. Finally, Kim Jun's voice rang across the arena. "System restart complete. Safety protocols restored." All automated defenses switching to standby mode. The arena fell silent except for the sound of settling debris and cooling metal. The toxic gases stopped flowing. The gravity stabilized. The remaining energy barriers flickered and disappeared. In the sudden quiet, Li Hyun looked around at their group. 4 humans and 4 Velkhori, all alive, all working together, all changed by what they had experienced. The trial was over, but the real test was just beginning. In the amphitheater above, 12 species of aliens sat in stunned silence, trying to understand what they had witnessed. The humans had not simply survived the trial. They had transformed it into something entirely new, and they had done it by protecting the very people who had meant to defeat them. The emergency crews that flooded into the arena found a scene that defied all their expectations. The combat zone that should have contained 1 victorious team and 1 defeated team instead held 8 beings working together to help the injured and secure the area. Humans and Velkhori moved side by side, sharing water and medical supplies as if they had been allies for years. Ambassador Thex Valdrin stood at the edge of the arena, his large black eyes wide with confusion and growing horror. The trial that was meant to establish human subservience had become a disaster that threatened the entire foundation of Velkhori authority. "The systems malfunctioned," he announced to the assembled alien representatives, his voice carrying a desperate edge. "The trial was corrupted by technical failures. It cannot be considered valid." But Kex Mordain, still covered in dust and debris from the arena, stepped forward with an expression that none of the watching aliens had ever seen on a Velkhori face. Humility mixed with genuine respect. "The trial was valid," he said, his words carrying clearly through the amphitheater's speakers. "More valid than any trial in our history. We faced real danger, real challenges, and we learned who we truly are when everything goes wrong." He turned to look at Li Hyun, who was helping Kim Jun pack up the improvised equipment they had built from arena wreckage. "The humans did not defeat us with superior weapons or overwhelming force. They defeated us by being better at the most important skill of all, survival." Vex Corain nodded in agreement. "Their technology is primitive, but their thinking is advanced in ways we never understood. They do not fight to destroy enemies. They fight to solve problems." Rex Valden, the youngest of the Velkhori champions, spoke with the enthusiasm of someone who had discovered a completely new way of seeing the world. "They saved our lives. They had no obligation to help us, every reason to let us die, but they chose to protect us anyway. This is strength we do not possess." The alien representatives in the amphitheater began to murmur among themselves. Several species that had suffered defeat in previous trials looked at each other with new understanding. The Frex maintenance workers, led by Bix, watched from the service corridors with expressions of hope they had not felt in decades. Lee Hyun walked to the center of the arena, his uniform torn and dirty, but his bearing still confident. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority of someone who had proven himself in the most demanding way possible. "The trial is complete," he announced. "Humanity has faced the challenges of the Valkyrie system and demonstrated our capabilities. We request recognition as equal partners in the Galactic Council." Thex Valdrin's voice rose with desperate anger. "You cannot claim victory. The arena malfunctioned. Your performance was aided by system failures that gave you unfair advantages." But before Lee Hyun could respond, an unexpected voice cut through the ambassador's protests. It was Zal Thekran, the Valkyrie tactical coordinator, speaking with the precision of a military analyst delivering a field report. "Ambassador, I must correct that assessment. The humans received no unfair advantages. They adapted to the same conditions we faced, but they adapted better and faster. Their success came from superior tactical thinking, not from system failures." He paused, looking directly at his own people in the amphitheater. "Furthermore, when the arena became genuinely dangerous, they chose to protect us rather than eliminate us. This demonstrates a form of strategic wisdom that our doctrine does not address." The implications of this admission rippled through the assembled representatives. If the Valkyrie themselves acknowledged human superiority in tactical matters, the entire basis of the galactic hierarchy was suddenly in question. Several ambassadors rose from their seats simultaneously. The representative of the Thylex Confederation, a species that had been relegated to mining operations after losing their trial centuries ago, spoke first. "We request a review of our own trial results. If the testing methods were flawed, our status should be reconsidered." This was followed by similar demands from half a dozen other species. The carefully maintained order that had kept the Valkyrie in power for millennia was crumbling in real time. Ambassador Thex Valdrin realized that his species faced a crisis unlike any in their history. "This is chaos," he protested. "The trials have maintained peace and stability for thousands of years. We cannot abandon them because of one unusual outcome." Lee Hyun stepped forward again, but his response was calm and diplomatic rather than triumphant. "We are not asking you to abandon the trials, Ambassador. We are asking you to improve them." He gestured toward the mixed group of humans and Valkyrie who were still working together to clean up the arena. "Today we learned that cooperation can be more powerful than competition. Perhaps the trials should test not just combat ability, but the capacity to work together when facing common dangers." Park Nari added her own observation. "The galaxy faces threats that no single species can handle alone. Pirates, resource shortages, unknown dangers in unexplored regions. These challenges require the kind of adaptive thinking and cooperative problem-solving that we demonstrated today." Kim Jun, who had been quietly documenting the arena's technical failures, looked up from his tablet. "I can provide detailed analysis of what went wrong with the arena systems and how to prevent similar failures in the future. But I can also show how those failures revealed capabilities that normal trials would never test." The offer represented something unprecedented. A species that had just won their freedom was volunteering to help improve the system for everyone else. Kex Mordain turned to address his own ambassador directly. "Thex Valdrin, we have learned more about real combat in one day than in decades of formal training. The humans offer knowledge that could benefit all our species. To refuse this gift out of pride would be the action of fools." The debate that followed lasted for hours. Species after species demanded reviews of their status, while others argued for maintaining traditional stability. But gradually, a new, Consensus emerged, driven by the undeniable evidence of what they had all witnessed. The Galactic Council voted to establish new trial procedures based on cooperative problem-solving rather than pure combat dominance. Humans would not simply be admitted as equals, but would help design the tests that future species would face. The Velkhori would retain their leadership role, but it would be shared leadership based on consultation rather than domination. Most importantly, the review process that several species had demanded was approved. For the first time in galactic history, previously defeated species would have the opportunity to demonstrate that they possessed valuable capabilities that the old trials had failed to recognize. As the session finally ended, Li Hyun found himself surrounded by representatives from multiple species, all eager to learn more about human tactical methods and cooperative strategies. The species that had arrived as supplicants seeking acceptance had become teachers whose knowledge was desperately wanted. Bix approached them as they prepared to return to their quarters, his furry face showing emotions that his people had kept hidden for generations. "The Frex will have a new trial soon," he said quietly. "Will you help us prepare?" Li Hyun smiled and placed a gentle hand on the small alien's shoulder. "We will help anyone who wants to learn. That is what partners do." 3 months later, the first reformed trials took place with representatives from both human and Velkhori military academies serving as observers and advisors. The tests focused on rapid adaptation, creative problem-solving, and the ability to work with unfamiliar allies under pressure. The results surprised everyone. Species that had been classified as servants or laborers for centuries demonstrated remarkable capabilities when tested properly. The rigid hierarchy that had defined galactic civilization began to transform into a more flexible network of cooperation. And at the center of this transformation were the humans, the species that had been invited to a deathmatch and had responded by revolutionizing the entire concept of what it meant to be strong.